Well, the month of January is coming to a close, and February is coming up very quickly upon us. I am Ryan. This is Michigan Storm Chasers. Welcome to the February Outlook video. We have been pretty accurate on the past 3 months for November, December, and January. We're going to try and keep that streak going here for the month of February. So if you're new here, welcome to the channel. We do these videos all the time, so feel free to hit subscribe and the like button. It helps us out a lot. And by subscribing, you will never miss Michigan weather content. We are live streaming 24/7 severe weather coverage this summer. As always, past 2 years, we are always here for Michigan weather, whether it's sunny, rainy, or tornado-y. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive in here to the forecast package. First point I'm going to make here is we are looking at an interesting month, to say the least. Starting with the CPC guidance here, the CPC is known as the Climate Prediction Center, a government agency that puts out outlooks for us, similar to the SPC, if you're familiar with those. But overall, they have a pretty good outlook, I'd say. We could probably just show 2 slides and be done, but we're going to put a little bit more effort into that. So first and foremost, our temperature outlook here shows Michigan in equal chances for below or above average temperatures. What that's all it's saying here is when we get to the end of the month, I'll add up all 28 days, they should equal right around average or so. And our average temperatures across the state, to kind of give you guys a reference here, I put together a graphic here that shows those temperatures. So Adrian, so southeast Michigan, 36 degrees. Bay City up there by the Tri-City area, right around freezing at 32. Kalamazoo at 35. And then go up further north, you get cooler. Alpena, Traverse City at about 30 or so. Marquette, and as well as the UP areas in the mid to upper 20s. So that's your average temperature. That's kind of what to expect when we say average temperatures for January or February or whatever. February's average temperatures would equal these. All right. Now, going into the CPC outlook here, going back to this, we're going to be right around average or so. Now, going into precipitation, here's where things get interesting. The CPC has us in an above average probability for above average precipitation. I don't have the exact amount of precipitation to expect, but overall an active pattern is expected, and that's also what we're kind of seeing here as well. Let's go ahead and dive into what's driving this. So first and foremost, we're going to look at a few things. First is the Arctic Oscillation, which is basically a measure of pressure up at the North Pole. When the AO, Arctic Oscillation, we're going to call it AO, when the AO is in a positive phase, that means that warm air can penetrate further south. When it's in a negative phase, that means cold air from the North Pole can come further south. So a positive phase basically means warmer for us. Negative means cooler for us. That middle line I've labeled neutral there on the left side of your screen. That 0 you see, that is the midline. There's a black line that runs across the entire graph. Anything above that is positive. Anything below that black line is a negative phase. That green line there is your forecasted AO from the European model. We're seeing it stay above the neutral, so we're going to be a positive phase throughout the first half of February. That means the AO would support a warmer pattern here. One more thing I'll look at as well that I'm not going to show is something called the NAO. This is more so the North Atlantic Oscillation, similar to this, but that's also in a positive phase, which usually trends good for warm air in the eastern half of the US. So we have a lot of what we call teleconnections coming together to support a warmer first half of February. Looking at the model, it kind of runs similar to what we're kind of thinking here. So this is an average map. So go back to your average temperatures across the state for February. Take those in consideration. For example, Adrian was 36 degrees. So anything above 36 degrees on this map I'm showing you would show up in a yellow or orange or red color, and like a warmer color. Anything below that 36 degrees would show up in a blue or green color. So the first week of February here, we're seeing a wide portion of the U.S. in above average temperatures, with colder air trying to filter in up there by Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana. Those areas up there may be cooler, as well as the very far northeast, like Maine, Vermont areas. But for the majority of us here in the U.S., we're going to be right on par with average or leaning above average. Now, we go into the second week of February, though. Here's where things kind of shift. Right around the 10th to the, we're going to say 14th, around that second week of February, our trend and pattern is going to change to a little bit cooler of a pattern here, but it's not going to be a significant cool down. It's not going to be, an Arctic blast. We're going to be negative 40 again. we're just seeing a few degrees off of average here. So on the bottom of these charts, it's kind of hard to see. I don't expect you guys to see it, but at the bottom of this picture here, there's a bar graph and it has numbers. That is basically saying how many degrees below average we're going to be. So most of the US here in the light blue, darker blue colors is anywhere from -1 to -4. So that's basically 4 degrees off of average. So it's just leaning. It's not showing its gigantic signal for cold. It's just kind of slightly deviate off of what's normal. So overall, it's not a big swing either way. Going into the third week of February, we're going to see a similar pattern here. And then as we move into the fourth week of February, that pattern kind of goes away and it kind of trends back toward normal. So overall, when you put all these graphs together, all these charts, what we're kind of seeing here is a warmer first half. And I say warm, I'm not talking 60s. I'm just talking a little bit above average here, an above average first half of the month. But then the second week or so, we're going to see a pattern flip. Exactly when is not yet known, but that second, third, and fourth week will be the time frame to watch to kind of flip back to a little bit below average. But there's no significant swings that we see. So we're not really expecting any Arctic blast to kind of send us into the Antarctica plunge again. We're not seeing that. We should be right on par with average for most of the months. So CPC, agreeing with you guys, I do believe we're going to be near average. When you add up all 28 days of February, we'll get to an average temperature that's right around normal. Now, in terms of what to expect for precipitation and also snow, rain, severe chances. Going back to CPC, recall it's above average for us here in Michigan. Let's go ahead and dive into what the pattern is going to look like. So first and foremost, I've been getting a lot of questions in our comments and messages about severe weather. Yes, severe weather, because we are entering February soon. And last year we had our first 2 tornadoes on February 28th. So some people are starting to get a little worried, starting to kind of creep in. Hey, we're going to get severe weather soon. Understandable. So I want to start with this graph here. This is a climatological map of where tornadoes usually happen in the month of February. As you can see here, the greatest risk is really across the deep south there and perhaps the Ozarks from Arkansas all the way through Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, maybe stretching as far north as southern Illinois there. And then there's also just a little bit smaller of a risk further north there towards the central and western parts of Ohio. But Michigan typically doesn't see February tornadoes very often. So overall concern for severe weather for us here in February is very low. Again, with that trending a little bit warmer in the first half and cooler in the second half of February, I really doubt we're going to get warm enough or moist enough for tornadoes or severe weather in general. So overall concern for severe weather here from MSC standpoint, very, very low. I don't see anything in the horizon that would support this in terms of our pattern. So just want to address that. I know we get a lot of comments on it. So want to knock that out of the park first and foremost. Now, in terms of what to expect over the next several days here, we're going to see a little bit of a pattern flip here. There's going to be a chance for heavy snow in the purple areas. Now, the dates on this map here are wrong. I do have the original graph here from the CPC, which does show a slight risk for heavy snow between February 5th and February 11th. That does include all of the UP and places, we're going to say north of Mount Pleasant, north of Cadillac, really, for northern lower Michigan. So they are involved in a slight risk there. But going back to this overall pattern here, this is kind of what we expect. That jet stream is going to split the U.S. down the middle here. On the north side of that jet stream will be colder air. On the south side will be warmer air. So that could lead to severe weather down in the deep south, like Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, where you see the yellows around that zone. We'll have a favorable environment for severe weather. But where that jet stream sets up looks to be keeping most of the warmth to our south. But with that jet stream positioning being so close to us, it's going to allow us to get a little bit warmer, but not going to be as warm as deep south. So that could give that could give us some split systems. What I mean by split systems is kind of like this. This is taken from today's model runs, actually. This is a European. What I mean by split systems is temperatures further north are usually colder, further south could be warmer. So Michigan could be in like a battle zone, so to speak, of temperatures. Further north in the UP, perhaps northern lower, we could be below freezing. But you go further south toward the Indiana-Ohio border, we could be above freezing. That could lead to a lot of systems that look like this. Snow on the north side, rain on the south side, and perhaps a mix in the middle. This is also why we get a lot of ice storms in February, because we have systems and patterns that look exactly like this. This is not an unusual pattern at all for us. This is actually quite typical. I don't think we're going to be seeing much severe weather. I do think there's chances for snow. I do think there's also chances for ice storms as well throughout the first half of February. Just because of this pattern we're in, we may have battle zones of temperatures with precipitation fighting for rain, snow, and or a mix of sleet and freezing rain, etc. So that's kind of the expectation right now for February in terms of our precipitation, especially during the first half. But with the second half trending very close to average, just again slightly deviating off normal, we may see a very active pattern throughout the month that does feature these split systems. So is there snow chances? Absolutely. Is there a chance for an ice storm? Absolutely. Is there a chance for all rain events? Absolutely. All it's going to matter is how cold or how warm are we going to get when these systems do pass through. So that's the biggest question that we cannot answer at this point, because we're in a split system here. We're not going to be able to say for sure, yeah, we're going to be cold. Like, we're not seeing Arctic blasts or big warm-ups on the horizon. It's going to come down to these temperatures as we get closer to these events, nailing down the specifics and such. So with that being said, a summary of what to expect here. Number one, above average temperatures to start February, below average to end February. An active storm track and pattern will continue at least for the first half of February. The second half is a little bit, kind of wishy-washy right now. But overall, I'd expect that pattern to continue. Temperatures will dictate precip type. That is a big one there. So there is potential for snow systems, for rain, and also for some ice as well. We just don't know at this time. 5, severe weather is unlikely, and that is because the bulk of our moisture and warmth stays well off to our south in the deep south. It shouldn't become an issue for us here in Michigan. And the final point is no major Arctic blasts that we see currently. That may change. I know a lot of things can change between now and the end of the month, but currently there's no major signal for Arctic air that's going to penetrate this far south. So with that being said, the end of your February goes back to CPC guidance here, because we agree with it. Above average precipitation and right around normal temperatures throughout the month. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll catch you guys next time here at Michigan Storm Chasers.